Thank you for checking out my new YouTube channel. In this channel, I'm going to talk about my journey in game design, what happened, what I did, and I just create and packaged my first game in Unreal Engine. It took me 3 months to make it and 1 month to package it for Windows. And I am sharing a link to that in the description. But I wanted to create this channel and maybe a Twitch later to chronicle what I did as a game designer. And the thing is that I'm going to talk about various steps I took. So in this video, I'm just going to be talking to you basically without giving you much technical information, just in terms of what was my journey about, how I did this journey. And then in subsequent videos, I would be much more technical, talking about the different things and technologies and things that I ended up using in my journey. I can tell you that about 6 months ago, or maybe a little something around that, I felt like I have been a gamer all my life, and I wanted to actually start creating games. And I've always wanted to create games. I just never knew that there was infrastructure for it, or there was platforms that made that possible. And, having this thought, I went and looked around, and I discovered that there are two main platforms to create games. One is Unreal Engine, and the other is Unity. Unreal Engine looked really complicated and expensive, and having C++ and all that stuff. Unity seemed like a sort of starting point. So I started in Unity. I went and learned Unity, and took all these YouTube tutorials on Unity and did some interesting stuff in Unity. Maybe I spent about 100 hours learning Unity, something like that. But I saw that everything I wanted to do in Unity, I had to code, and I had to code C#. And I do have a degree in computer science, but truth be told, I'm not a good programmer. So I couldn't really code in C#. So then I saw that in Unity there is a visual scripting thing, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. But I tried to get it to work, and I couldn't. I don't know. Whatever I tried, I couldn't get the visual scripting. And I researched things, and I saw, oh my God, Unreal Engine. It's not just C, but this blueprint thing that Unreal Engine has is extremely powerful. And I'm like, okay, so that means that I can just go into Unreal Engine and start, creating games or something. Therefore, I don't have to code. So I went into Unreal Engine. I went to Unreal Engine and took a tutorial course, which was like 5 hours. I think his name is Sensei or something. Unreal Sensei or something. I took that with him for 5 hours. That was pretty good. I learned the basis of Unreal design or Unreal Engine. I discovered, basically the environment, what different things are, how to use certain tools, the beginner stuff. And then, I took another course. Not course, this is all, I didn't pay for this education. I started my journey in Unity. I thought I'm just gonna design a game and whatever, and I played with designing games, but then more and more I went through my journey. I discovered that I'm really not so interested in designing games per se. I'm not Rockstar. I can't create GTA 6. I'm not, I can't create Phantom Liberty that CD Projekt Red did. So I'm not that. And I'm like, do I really want to even make games that are like They're like RPGs or they're shoot 'em ups, or I'm not really that interested or at all interested. I'm interested in playing some of those games, but I'm not interested in creating games that I'm not interested in creating games that you have some kind of an inventory and you carry stuff and you fight the monster and you get the treasure and you win a quest. I'm like, that stuff is not that interesting to me, and the market is so saturated with that stuff anyways. I don't really feel like adding to that. I'm not gonna add to this already saturated market with something which is gonna be pretty low quality anyways. I'm not gonna get into that. And I'm like, okay, so let me think what are the games that I really like. And I discovered that what I really like is games that have interactions. And I had just played this game, Life is Strange, I think, or something like that. And it's just all these experiences. I like interactive experiences that that you follow something and like you touch something and you interact with it. It's not about, okay, you carry some object or you buy something or you sell something. It's not about that. It's about, in that Life is Strange series, you have a radio and you play music, or you open a door, or like interactive objects that are not so, you not pick them up, you're not killing something. I became super interested in that, in kind of creating interactive experiences, except I had no idea what to do, because when I was following Gorka Games, or I was following so many YouTube videos and so many courses, none of them actually were talking to me about how to create interactive experiences. I was in this journey for months, 2, 3 months, going on, and never really finding anything outside these shoot 'em ups or fighting games or RPGs or something like that. So being kind of desperate, I went to Facebook, and there's this amazing group called UE developers, Unreal Engine developers. And I went and brought my frustration there and said, what can I do? And there were some gentlemen and that were extremely helpful to me. And they say, hey, you can do this easily in Unreal using this thing called sequencer. And if you use sequencers, you don't really have to program so much, and you can create animations that are interactable and interactive. And boy, that was amazing to me. That was the best news ever in my game design idea, because I wanted to kind of create interactive experiences that didn't really need so much coding, that I could just create animations and have these animations be triggered by by an action or by a movement. And so after that, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Now I have the technology. I have a technology. I have a way of doing something. That sounds really good. That sounds really fun. I'm going to use these sequencers all over the place. And so let me see what kind of story do I want to bring to the world, right? That is really important to me, because again, I wasn't interested to create another shoot 'em up or things like that. I wanted to create things that mean something to me and make the board a better place, because honestly, I believe that being a gamer myself, most of the time we play games to kind of just tune out, or to just, I wouldn't say waste time, but kind of kill time and kind of just get entertained. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to create an experience that people play a very short game, and this short little game would actually teach them something profound. And I thought about this, and I'm like, so I am an extremely, for me, the spiritual life is very important. Developing something spiritually and developing something which has to do with human consciousness and awakening. And I'm like, games are so cool for that because, in real life, you can't retry things. If you mess up, that's it. You have messed up. But in a game, you can try something and then try it again, and then try it again, and try it again. And, I like to say mistakes are like missed takes. And if you miss a take, you can do it again and then again until you get it right. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I am gonna make a game, which as you see, I already made that game. It's in the description here. I want to make a game which is extremely short, but it gives a profound lesson. And I'm a writer, I write things, I write little stories that have profound experiences, which they're very simple, but they can mean deeply. And so I went through my stories and I looked at my stories and I found a short little story, which is like, I don't know, 5 paragraphs or something. And I'm like, this is a good story to turn into a game. And so what I happened to do then, I'm like, how do I turn a story into a game script? I have no idea how to do that. So thanks to the technology these days, there are these amazing AI tools, right? There is Claude, there is Bard, there is ChatGPT. And I'm like, what if I use Claude? And I ended up doing that. And I will show you later in other videos how you can play with Claude, come up with, your little story and work with Claude to come up with a script, go back and forth, literally having a conversation. And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going back and forth with Claude. I said, okay, I want this, turned it into a story for me, turned it to a game script in IUE, in Unreal Engine, and it did it. And I went through, I don't know, nights and almost a week of going back and forth. Finally, I had a script and it was amazing. I'm like so excited. Like, okay, so now I have a script. And now I know this thing about sequencers and I know a little bit about how Unreal works and, from Unity and everything, how game design works. So I started working and I will, as I said in my future videos, I will tell you step by step what I did for this game. And I will have a second project that I will launch pretty soon, and I will start walking you through what steps I do at that project. But I'm gonna give you an overview what I ended up doing. So I used Claude mainly to come up with my script, right? I came up with my script, my game script, and then after I had my game script, I had these sequencers, and I'm like, okay, now I need for my journey, I need to have an environment, right? And then I went and did my environment. I wanted to create a forest. So I found a forest. I found the tutorial for forest, and I found the sort of a mega scans and quick cell mega scan stuff for that. But then I wasn't so happy with that environment. I ended up using Errant Worlds, which is an amazing environment design tool set. And it gives you, an ability to create environments, to create nature, to create biomes, to create paths. So I first did something and I didn't like it, and I brought everything to this environment of by Errant Worlds, which is really cool. I love Errant Worlds. They're amazing. For my environment, I use it Errant Worlds with a small biome of a shallow crater. As you play my game, you will see it's a shallow crater. And then I went and from the mega scans, from the Unreal Engine, from the Epic store, I downloaded all these free assets, all these trees and flowers and things like that. And I populated my environment. As you play my game, you see that there is a body of water. I needed to discover how to create certain effects. So I played with things and I created certain effects and I played with water. And then I'm like, okay, how can I animate my character, my player, and the other players? So I ended up using Mixamo, and I brought Mixamo and brought it to Unreal. And I gotta say, working with Unreal Engine is a miracle, is magical, because you don't have to do anything and you can just go inside third person game design, and third person game template, and you already have a character, a beautiful character that runs around, and it's like you have an environment. If I wanted to do that in Unity, it took me months and I couldn't do that. And in Unreal, it's something that is given to you. You don't have to make it, it's already there. So your job then is to replace that sort of a mannequin or that metal character or that robot or android and turn it to something else. So I used Mixamo, but then after Mixamo, I ended up using MetaHumans, and I saw, oh my God, I love MetaHumans. MetaHumans are so awesome. Okay, so I ended up using MetaHumans, and then I discovered this amazing tutorial that after days of research on YouTube, I discovered that an amazing guy gave this 10-minute tutorial that teaches you how to turn your person, your character, your player into a metahuman. So you're running around with your metahuman, which was so much fun. And right now, when you play my game, you are a metahuman running around. And then after that, after I figured that part out, I had my metahuman running around. Then I'm like, okay, what is that I want to do? Because I want to create this sort of a game about consciousness and about choices. The most important thing for me is giving player choices at any given moment. And there's a yes and no. So for that yes and no, you're gonna use in Unreal, you're gonna use a user widget. And then so I ended up using user widgets with yes and no. I created my own user widget, yes and no, but I wanted to create a system. I wanted to create a system that where you have a user widget with yes and no, and then the variable on it, the text on it changes. And I ended up doing that. And it was so cool. And I discovered how to do that. And that is, again, in another video, I'll talk to you about that, how I did that, how I went through, what was the journey I went through to create user widgets. And then, when I was dealing with user widgets, I saw that a big issue in UE, in Unreal Engine, for me was inter blueprint communication. That one blueprint, how does that one blueprint talk to another blueprint? And this was a huge problem. I dealt with it and I went to the forum and I researched this, and I had so many issues. I ended up using interfaces quite a bit. And interfaces are quite useful in Unreal. Again, I will make a video talking about what are interfaces, what are the technical sides of these things. But interfaces are quite useful to create inter-blueprint communication or intra-blueprint communication in Unreal Engine. You go from one blueprint and you create an interface, and one blueprint calls the interface, the other one kind of creates it, and it's that's how one blueprint can talk to the other blueprint. And I tried to I wanted to basically just have my widget, my yes and no widget closed, and I couldn't do it because I didn't know how to talk from my one widget or one blueprint to the other blueprint. So I ended up discovering that casting is the best thing to do in Unreal Engine. Casting is the best way to communicate between blueprints. But then casting has this hidden secret, and that hidden part is that casting always needs an object. And I couldn't find the object. I couldn't find the object for, I have one blueprint does something, and then the other blueprint and does something else. and I need to cast to one blueprint, again, I'll make a video about this, that I couldn't figure out what the object was. So I was doing this for weeks and I was getting nowhere until I discovered, okay, you know what? Through research and asking people, I discovered that I have to bring all my coding under one blueprint rather than having, each piece of my coding to be on one object and one blueprint. No, all of it. And I ended up bringing everything to my third person character. And when I did that, so right now, if you look at my game and if you look at my blueprints, everything, all the coding, all the main coding is done inside third person character. Why? Because everywhere you go and you want to talk to any of, you want to cast to you would simply cast to the third person character blueprint. And when you cast the third person character blueprint, what happens is that the object, it's always like character player, something extremely simple and trivial. So that was a huge thing for me. It took me weeks to figure that out, that, okay, that is the way to do it. You got to put all your code under third person character blueprint, because when you want to talk to that blueprint, you want to be able to just call on it and use the reference. And that reference is just, the object reference is just character player or something. I'll do a video on this. And the thing is that made my life so much easier. I mean, before that, everything was so frustrating. And I'm like, I didn't know how to, but then after that, I getting organized and getting all my code. So I ended up having all my code, all my programming code in one thing, under one basically blueprint. And that was the blueprint for third person character. And then all the other stuff is that all my widget stuff, which was about the yes, no thing, to create that widget, that was brought that to one other blueprint. That was my other. Basically, I have two blueprints. That's that. It's just the blueprint for all my actions and a blueprint for, and when you play my game, you see that it's like every time you say yes, action happens. But if you say no, then there's a second widget, that second screen that shows up. It's like, are you sure you're saying no? And I had to create that, and that I couldn't do that without this kind of a code organization that I'm telling you. And then after that was basically, these were the main challenges that, again, I will make videos and talk about these, the technical parts of these things. And then the last thing is that, okay, I want to have my game show up, and then like I wanted a start sort of a block or sort of a, some sort of a start menu to show up the first time the user launches my game. But then when they retry and they lose and they want to retry, I don't want that to show up, and how to do that. And I ended up doing that using this amazing function that Unreal has called a game instance, which keeps track of, all these variables. And it's so much fun. And like, basically, if you look at my code, I have basically three blueprints. One is for the, third person character blueprint. One is for all my widgets, where all my widgets are sitting. And one is my level blueprint, which is using the game stance. And that's it. And then the rest is just, and my game, because I wanted to create this thing and I wanted to just create options and choices for the user and dialog boxes, that when you play my game, and you can finish my game in 10 minutes, which is really all of it intentional. I wanted to make an extremely short game that could be completed really quickly for non-gamers. Again, this is not GTA 5, GTA 6 or whatever. This is an extremely short game for people who are non-gamers. And, again, I will make videos about all of these topics. But the thing is that now my game is developed. and I developed it in a Unreal Engine. When you start playing with it, you see that it has many versions. Right now we are in 5.32. But before, when I started doing MetaHuman work, my game was done in 5.2. So okay, I've made this game. Now I want to create a Windows packaging of it to give it to the world. It didn't work. It failed. And I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I went to package this game to, make it very long, scary story short. Took me almost 4 weeks. Like the development of it took like 3 months, and the exportation, the packaging, the cooking took a month almost. And so what I ended up doing, multiple ways of troubleshooting, and I will talk about this. I will make different videos about packaging. But what ended up happening is that I discovered that really 5.21, because I had MetaHumans, it didn't really work, because I don't know why, but the way I tested it is that I packaged a game empty level without anything, just with the MetaHuman, and it wouldn't package. And it actually did package, but the game would not launch. So I'm like, okay, there's something fundamentally wrong with 5.21 in terms of the way it deals with MetaHumans. I'm not really sure what. And then what ended up happening is that I migrated my game from 5.21 to 5.3, because in 5.32, when I ran the MetaHuman in an empty level, it packaged. So that showed to me that MetaHuman works in 5.32. So then I migrated, but to migrate in UE, in Unreal Engine, is an absolute nightmare. And I had to really figure out how to migrate. And I will make a different video and I will tell you how I migrated. It is not easy. It's extremely complicated, extremely tricky. And I migrate, and it didn't package. It didn't package. Again, I went for a week and I troubleshooted and I did all kinds of things. And I discovered, and I kept removing elements, and I discovered, oh, it's because of my game instance that I told you before, that everything breaks down. So I removed game instance, but then I discovered even with game instance, everything crashes. And I went to the Unreal Engine forum, and I went to 10 different places with all these smart people. Nobody could help me with my error message. And they told me you have to basically redo your game, and migration is not the right way, and it's everything. And I ended up doing that, kind of. I ended up reverse engineering my own game. And believe it or not, it's some weird widget that I had that was causing the trouble. It took me, I don't know, days to figure that out. But then I figured it out and I packaged my game. And, the game is in the description. This was a very long introduction to this channel, but hopefully, some of you would learn something from this. And please come back to this channel and watch out and stay tuned for future videos, which are going to be much more technical and talking about various aspects of game design and what happened in Unreal, and talking about, my present game and what I did and how I did different technical aspects of it. And then, stay tuned for my second project that I will start soonish. And then when I do that, I will actually launch also a Twitch channel where I will do live coding and I will show you what I'm doing. So thank you very much for watching this. And, I hope that you like and subscribe to this channel. This is my way of trying to give back to the community and get people like me who are non-coders, non-game designers, maybe make some cool stuff for other non-coders. And I really hope that you enjoy this. I hope you subscribe. I hope you comment, tell me what want to see in this channel. And I hope you come back. Thank you so much.